Hello, Crafty Crandall fam. I am coming at you from the floor of my art studio because I am going to be reorganizing all of my art supplies, and I wanted to share with you the process, share with you how I organize my art supplies, what I choose to keep and what I choose to donate, and what supplies I have in my current collection. So this will kind of be like an updated collection of art supplies in addition to some organization hacks and some tips and tricks for you to keep your art supplies more organized. The first thing that I am going to do is take all of my art supplies out of their various locations. I am going to put them here on the floor, and then I am just going to sort through what I have, sort through what works, what doesn't, etc., so that I can decide what to keep, what not to keep, and then I will go through with you how I put all the supplies back in their places so that I have an organized, clean space to choose my art supplies from for future art endeavors.
The messy stage of this process is such an important step. It allows you to realize exactly what you have, what you're dealing with, and just know everything that you might consider keeping so that you can evaluate your space needs for all of these things. It might look overwhelming at first having so much stuff laid out, but truly it helps with the organizational process to see everything all at once in the same space. Alright, as you can see, I have taken all of my art supplies out. I have so many art supplies. There's just stuff stacked here. It's all stacked, as you can see, and so I've got a lot to go through. I decided to keep the drawers as they were, just so that I can organize them, because I do want to keep generally the same things in those drawers. I just want to see if there's stuff that either I don't need, don't want, or if any of it doesn't really work well. In the case of the pens, if they've dried up, then I can move them. So I think my plan at this point is to just start going through all of these art supplies and just taking an inventory of what I have and kind of putting things in categories of paints, markers, etc., papers, blah, blah, blah. So that's the plan right now. I will check in with you once I've managed to do some of that. Putting things in piles according to their item type can help you again reevaluate the space needs for that specific type of item, and will also help you realize what duplicates you might have of items that you didn't even realize, or also help you find things that you maybe have been looking for or that you otherwise have just not had a cohesive place for. It can be really helpful to evaluate all of your supplies this way, and is yet another step, but a really valuable one. Additionally, you see me organizing my art here. This can also be a great time to do that. Alright, it doesn't look that much more organized yet, but I can assure you it is all at least an organized mess at this point. So we've got all of my paints with this little guy right here has a bunch of oil paints and acrylics that I really never use, but do plan on one day trying. Right here I have all of my watercolor paper. Up here on the desk I put all of my canvases and things that I don't really use again. That is all packaging supplies in case I ever want to send artwork out. I keep packaging supplies. All of this is miscellaneous, so that's all crafting supplies, frames, technology that I'm going to relocate to other places, and then down there is tape, ink, and then an empty drawer that I emptied out. Trash, all of my swatches and stuff, and then this is drawing supplies. So we've got colored pencils, watercolor pencils, regular pencils, markers, charcoal that I've never used, and then all of my measuring supplies. All of my palettes are right there, that are empty palettes. So palette to paint on, palettes that can hold paint but just currently are not, and then I've got my pens, a glue stick, random little bits of paper that I might use at some point, all of my artwork. So that has all my portfolios, a frame that I might reuse for a different piece someday if I make a piece that'll work there. And then this is actually, I have transfer paper, which I didn't know I had. That is the great thing about this exercise, is that you can often find things that you forgot about or didn't realize that you had. And then on the top there is like little transparent sheets so that you can, they're transparencies. If you're old enough to remember transparencies, leave a comment down below and let me know. So those I plan on using as like palettes for the oil paint if I ever get to using it, so that I don't have to use like palette paper or anything, which I don't already have. I can just use those. At this point in the process, I am just gonna go through and decide what I'm gonna keep, decide what I'm getting rid of, and then go from there as far as putting everything back into a place. And I have a plan for that. We'll see how it goes, but first I need to figure out exactly what I'm keeping. You don't want to keep supplies that don't work. If you have anything that has dried up and you've just kept it for the sake of it taking up space, this is a great opportunity to go through all of those supplies and make sure that you know that they all function, so that you know if you need to repurchase anything or if something is dead. Alright, I tried every single one of the pens on just a little scrap piece of paper, so I know that all of these work, and I've made this a strictly black and white box because it used to have some of these colors in it, and I don't really want that anymore. I think I'm just going to stick with black and white in this drawer. I moved the charcoal in with the pencils. I took them out of their container, and I am just going to get rid of the little charcoal sticks because, to be honest, I don't see myself ever using those, but I might use the charcoal at some point, so I kept that. And I reorganized this drawer, so now both of these drawers can go back in and just get out of the way for now, because I know that this is where these are gonna go. This area is definitely going to be the hardest to tackle because I don't use my crafting supplies all that much, but they are nice to have when I do want to do some crafting, and so figuring out what to keep and what to get rid of in this box is going to be a little bit difficult. Taking everything out of the little plastic tin, you can see that I have something like 12 erasers, some glue gun stuff, staples, a hole punch, some lead, tape, 3 different pencil sharpeners, and then random miscellaneous supplies. So this box was kind of a catch-all of things, and that's really what you want to avoid having, because once you have a catch-all box, then nothing in that box is actually useful to you, because you don't know what you have and you can't get it out when you need to because it's buried under a bunch of other stuff. So I find these are really bad habits, and so I'm going to try to organize these supplies, put them with other like supplies so that they don't just get buried in this box and can be better utilized in the future. Another great tip that I can offer is if you have any boxes, to utilize them. So I use the tops of boxes and the bulk of boxes to organize these supplies and just make them look prettier. Going back over to my crafting supplies, I've used the bin that I had before for glue, and I've actually used another kitchen Tupperware to organize all of my ribbons and miscellaneous crafting supplies. Overall, I think that this will really work well in the space to just keep everything organized and in its own place. At this point, I think it's about time to be putting stuff back. So what I did is I cleared off the shelf, moved my CDs to the bottom, and now I'm just going to make this completely an art shelf so that it is easily accessible from my art desk, so that I can just put all of my art supplies on it. And then I'm going to put my other art supplies back where they belong in my newly reorganized art box. Additionally, all of these bigger items I'm going to reorganize and put back down there, as that is really the only place that I have to store larger items like this. So they will just end up back there. However, they'll be better organized from now on. Putting things back in their places is perhaps the most rewarding part of this process. It's great to see your hard work come to fruition and put everything back in a nice, organized manner that you can really easily see and recall where everything is, so that you know where it is when you need it. This shelf looks so much better to me. I absolutely love having my scraps of paper close to me so that I can evaluate whether I want to use them instead of going for a larger piece of paper. I have all of my little watercolors, like the smaller size watercolor papers there. I've got some canvases. I've got all of my swatches easily accessible. I've got my paints right there, along with my various like palette stuff and my paper clips, and then my extra boxes for organizing things when I've got stuff that fit in the box, and then all of my various frames and things. This shelf is my drawing shelf. I love it. I think it's really great. I can see all of my alcohol markers. I've got all of my colored pencils, watercolored pencils, etc. here, my Posca markers. It just feels so much better to have all of these things in one place and organized. As far as the shelves up here, I've relocated all of my watercolor paper, my drawing paper, and my Bristol board up here so that I don't have to fuss about down below trying to find the paper that I'm looking for. I know it's always going to be up here. I then relocated all of these palettes over here. This is pretty much where those palettes already lived, but I've just moved the rest of the palettes to this area so that this is now my palette space. My craft supplies got removed over there. I put the paper down there, and then both of the bins that you saw, along with my varnish up there so that I can have it handy because the varnish doesn't fit in here, which is kind of annoying, but we make do. In here, I've just reassembled everything. I actually have space in case I want to put anything else up there, but for now, I have all of my erasers in the back, my tapes, my inks, my masking fluid, and just my various little testers paints, which I used to do some like little craft paints in the past. The drawers didn't change too much at all. As you saw, this is still my pen drawer. This is still my pencil drawer, but now it's got the charcoal. I kept all of my paint brushes in here when I did the reorganization, and then I just used this drawer for all of my rulers and things that didn't previously have a home. And then, like I said, paintbrushes. This top drawer was my paint before, but now it holds even more paint. So it's got all of my watercolors, and watercolor crayons. So this is my entire watercolor drawer. I really love this, how this looks. I know that anytime I want to do any watercoloring, I just come to this drawer. Similarly, I have all of my gouache in this drawer. I've got my Miyahime gouache, my acrylic gouache, and my Arteza gouache in here. They're all in the same place. If I want to use a gouache, I come to this drawer. And then my last drawer is just my Shinhan watercolors, which I have in a palette up here. Like these are just the tubes. The palette up here actually has these watercolors, so this is just extra storage for the tubes. Nothing in this shelf changed. I really like how this is organized already. It's very functional, and so nothing needed to change there. But down here, this is so much more organized. I know, it probably doesn't look it, but trust me, it is, because I don't have all of my watercolor paper down here. I don't have all my little bits and scraps. It's just so much better. I've got all my packaging supplies. I've got my canvases. I use that a lot. This is what I put my watercolor paper on, so that's easily accessible. That's a bigger version of it, and it's hiding the larger canvases behind it. So this area is so much more organized. I know that when I want a watercolor, I just grab that and it'll be so much easier. In the end, there was actually very little that I decided to get rid of, one of which was this Crafty paint palette, which I had used my acrylic gouache on, so unfortunately at this point it is what it is. I can't wash it off because acrylic gouache doesn't wash as well as regular gouache. So that was my mistake. This will be thrown away because I don't really plan on using it, and I can't re-wet the paint that's stuck on it. These two pens were no good, so I am getting rid of them. I actually have already replaced the Faber-Castell one, and the Sharpie pen is just old. Hello, Elsa. These Le Pens I have decided to get rid of. I never reach for them. I don't really like the way that they write. They're a felt tip pen, but it's like a really fine felt tip, and they just don't work for me. So I'm going to find a new home for these. I know a lot of people who like bullet journaling who might enjoy these a lot more than I did. These really cheap pencil sharpeners I have never used. I've had them around forever, and I've got so many other pencil sharpeners that I just don't see myself ever using these, so I will find a new home for these as well. I had so much packaging stuff, so I save everything. It's ridiculous. I keep things in their original package. This is a big tip I recommend not doing. If you can find a new way to package something that's going to save you space, I highly recommend doing that and throwing away things that you're never going to use. Similarly, with the charcoal tin that I said I was getting rid of, I'm going to get rid of the tin and also these charcoal sticks. And then this kneaded eraser is actually no good anymore. It's like dried out, so I'm gonna get rid of that. And then on that same vein, my Sennelier box that my Sennelier watercolors came in, I'm going to get rid of this because I can't really put anything in it. Like, okay, I suppose I could put like pencils and stuff in it, but with the height of the box and the depth of the box, it just doesn't fit well on any of my shelves, so I've decided to just get rid of it. So all in all, that's all of the stuff that I got rid of during this kind of reorganization period, but my stuff just feels so much better organized. And so that is really it. I think the biggest tips out of this video were to take everything out of your space, evaluate what you have, reorganize it, put it in piles of like things, find a place for those like things, and then get rid of any excess packaging that is just disrupting your space. Find a more creative way to package things so that they are together and fit in the space that you are trying to fit them in. With that, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you. I know that I feel much better about my space now and am excited to get creating. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!